Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Shop Talk, hosted by the Triangle Area SQL Server Users Group. This is the first Shop Talk of the year 2021, or as I like to call it, the 9th month of March 2020. We have with us, directly below, Tom Norman. How you doing, Tom?
Good, Kevin. How are you tonight?
I am doing okay. And we have indirectly, rightwards, Mala Mahadevan. How you doing, Mala?
Hello, everybody. Good evening.
And Happy New Year's to you, Anders. Good to see you. Good to see you. So, we have a few items on the agenda for tonight. But as always, Shop Talk is Howdy the Duke. Shop Talk is a chat-driven program. We thrive on your ideas. Sometimes just enough words to set me off on a 10-minute rant. We'll see if that happens. Our first topic of the night. Big news, somewhat sad news, but it's news. Tom is moving. Tom's moving away from us. We tried putting a net on him. He escaped the net. We did lock him in a box for a while, but he got out of that.
That's about like my dog. She was on a harness the other night and saw a rabbit and escaped it. Escaped the harness and was gone after the rabbit. So, but yes, I'm moving to Livingston, Texas, which is about an hour and a half northeast of Houston. And we're buying a house that has a waterfront view. It's across the street from the lake. So our retirement house. So we're going to go play on the water and work as little as I can. So
makes sense. You got a
till I
retirement house.
retire. Our retirement house.
You got a retirement job.
That's
Almost
right.
like you're retiring.
Yep, trying to get there.
Anders is gonna delete your record from the system.
Anders.
Everybody else whose buyer's name is Norman.
Oh, okay.
So there will be a lot of unhappy Normans.
Gone.
Anders, the last time there were this many unhappy Normans, they invaded England.
That's right. Be careful.
So the Duke says, congratulations on the retirement. It's technically not for a couple more years, right?
Right. Yep. I still have 3 years and 4 months to go, but considering that we decided not to go overseas and to stay in the States, we decided to go ahead and make the move in the retirement house. It was funny because I think I was telling Kevin right beforehand, we were literally looking at homes and I saw one almost immediately on Zillow that was gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous, beautifully manicured yard taken care of. It had only been on Zillow 8 days and it sold immediately that weekend. And my wife found this house that we're buying and she goes, go look at it. So I flew down on my son's benefit. So you can blame him because I got free flight to Houston and drove up, looked at the house and ended up buying it. So gorgeous home. And decided to go ahead and do it so we could go ahead, stop paying North Carolina state taxes. And then, of course, the property, it's funny, everybody keeps saying, well, the property taxes are higher. And I'm looked at my tax bill of the house here and the house there, and I'm like going, it's a little higher in Texas, but not that much versus North Carolina. So yeah, so yep, we're gonna go play.
Very good, very good. So this is going to be Tom's last episode of Shop Talk. Anders affirms that North Carolina is expensive to live in compared to Texas.
Yes, it is.
But Tom will be with us for a couple more weeks before he moves down. However, the board position, we're going to need to find a new board member. So,
Anders, come on, step up, man.
If there is anybody who is interested, we'll have some sort of process. I don't know, trial by fire or something. But we'll figure out who will be the next board member. Maybe it'll turn into a show. It'll be a dance off, a shoot off. It could be a shoot off. It could be a dance off. We could also try other ways of doing it, but I think those are probably the two most likely options right now. So I'll send out an email to the broader group the next few days, and we'll open that up to everybody. But if you are interested in joining the TriPass board, we do have that opening. You won't have to compete against an existing board member, so that if that was what put you off from running last time around, an opening. Be interested in talking to people who want to help the TriPass board.
Well, the one thing that I can encourage anybody that is listening is it was a career-changing move to start getting involved and getting to know people and learning the SQL family and everything. It is a career-changing move to actually help other people along. Just think of all the people that have gotten you to the point that you are today. Come pay it forward and help other people get to the same spot. So I encourage you to do it. If you got any questions, even if you have issues after I leave, you can always contact me an email. I'm gonna help you out.
Yeah, that's
So it helps with your resume. I can guarantee that for a fact, as somebody who's been on chapter boards for almost 2 decades now. People find it a good thing that you're taking personal time to help community and grow, tech talent. So actually, I haven't interviewed anywhere where they didn't think it was a good thing. Singularly, everybody looks at it and thinks it's a good thing. So
right. Well, I mean,
yeah.
phrase it this way: you're talking about you're a board member of a nonprofit organization.
Right.
Yeah, and you definitely, it's definitely a good thing. It's people, when you're interviewing, you've got that on your resume. It shows that you're more than just trying to collect a dollar. It shows that you're trying to, especially if you're a member of, you tell them what it is, and they're like, oh, so you're trying to help other people learn. So it's kind of like I'm training a guy right now that's going to be my replacement, and I will be training him over the next few years and stuff. So it's always a good thing.
Yeah. Double checking, which you are the vice president of membership?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so that's the answer, Anders. The vice president of membership. Had to check the bylaws
and probably
to make sure.
sponsorship also, because you ever do Data Saturday or whatever they're going to call it. I was always going after the funds for you.
Yeah. So looking at chat, welcome back, Neil. Good to see you again. I know it's pretty late your time. Neil would win a dance off. Mala confirms. So, I don't know but what if we have 2 rounds? We have the dancing round and the shooting round. We might have to have a 3rd round. I'm not sure. The 3rd round would have to be like building a barn. You have to build a barn. It'll be a small barn, maybe about that tall, that big, but it'll be a barn.
Oh, we can have them come build my garage, and we'll see how well they do that. I do need to build a garage on the new house, so we can come have them build the garage and see how well they do.
Barn raising. See, Anders is on this. Now, answering other questions. Solomon says a data model off. I mean, yeah, but that'd be too straightforward. I prefer the idea of most efficient barn raiser, best shooter, and best dancer. And you got to win 2 out of 3 challenges. So, what kind of time commitment is a board position, roughly? Well,
depends upon the time of the year and what's going on. It's a SQL, around the SQL Saturday or Data Saturday, if it ever became live again, you're a lot busier at that point. But Kevin, would you say maybe an hour, maybe 2 a month? It's not that large a commitment.
Yeah, that's probably about right. Yeah, I guess it depends mostly on which role you're in. Like right now, Tracy being vice president of programs, basically
Speakers.
getting
Yeah.
getting speakers. She's pretty busy right now. But you move forward to May, and that particular role has a lot less going on. It's the commitment's probably an hour or two a month at most.
Right. I mean, we do a good job sharing the workload between us, and no one person is terribly taxed around anything. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's not exactly the biggest organization ever. There's not a lot of like active day-to-day stuff going on.
correct.
Um, mostly at a normal time, it's essentially just make sure we have venues, which for the most part historically hadn't been a horrible problem, and getting speakers and lining up stuff like that. Tom talked about sponsorship for SQL Saturdays. Well, you folks will be the first to know we're not doing a SQL Saturday in 2021.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's doing a SQL Saturday, but we're not going to do a data Saturday either. We're going to wait until 2022. I'd like to do an event in the spring, so I don't want to have it this spring because I don't even know if I could get a venue, much less if anybody would show up.
Right. Right.
So,
even I will be honest with you and give you a clue. The last several years, sponsorships have been really pretty easy because they have actually come to me instead of me having to go beat down their doors. So, as you learn to talk to people and stuff, and I've already got the contacts and the emails and the phone numbers for you. So it's not like, unless someone has quit and moved on, you really don't even have to do the grunt work to figure out, who to get a hold of at Century One or a Deer or whoever the case may be. So.
right. Mike points out that Richmond did a remote SQL Saturday. Yeah, they were. I think they were the first remote SQL Saturday, but we're not going to do a remote one. I don't think it's. I'm glad that they're happening. I just don't think that we move the needle. Like having an event in person means we get people who may not otherwise attend a SQL Saturday to attend this one. Versus if we had a SQL Saturday and somebody else had a SQL Saturday on the same day, it makes literally no difference because they're both online. So
Correct. And
there's
we
no
have some
population.
very good quality online events going on with group buy and
And
new
there's a lot of
lots of very good events that are actually started out as online events and are doing a great job in that space. So I'm not sure just going in as a SQL Saturday there is I don't know. I agree with Kevin.
and the data Saturdays that are being announced right now. You've got several of those already starting to kind of happen. So it's going to get crowded, and if because they're all going to be online, it's like, why have 3 events in one day? Because the speaker can't. Well, you could speak at, if it's virtual, you could say, okay, I'm gonna speak at 9:00 in Guatemala's and 10:00 in Italy's and whatever. So
Hey, I would do that.
yeah. So hey, I spoke in 3 different areas of the world today.
Yep.
So
Yeah, and it's not a knock on Data Saturday at all, or even on the virtual events. It's basically just saying somebody else is going to put one on, and it's not going to make a difference if we're hosting it. It will make zero difference to the attendee versus
Absolutely.
somebody else hosting it.
Right.
and I don't doubt. I'm kind of wondering right now, until you get back to a live event, how much money that you would be able to raise in the first place for a virtual. You might be able to raise a little bit, but I don't think you're going to be able to raise a whole lot.
Well, why would you need a lot of money, Tom? I'm a little confused. I mean, the only money you need is for the platform, whatever it is.
Well, that's where you would need the money for, exactly.
Right.
It's just going to be
Right.
the platform or whatever.
Right.
Unless you wanted to try to give away some gifts or stuff at the very end, like some attendee gifts or something like that
From,
you could
from what I
raffle
know,
off and mail them to them.
From what I know, Microsoft and Redgate are two sponsors that may be willing to help with the platform space if we are
Yeah.
even interested. So, yeah, so that's literally all when it comes to sponsorship, and until we get out of the woods and start doing real events.
Right.
Mike says speakers don't get paid.
What is that?
I mean, sometimes.
I just got a check today, Kevin. Yeah. So from O'Reilly, my final check from O'Reilly.
Nice.
Was it something worthy, Tom? I don't even look at what I get by way of the book sales at all.
Yes, it's significant. If you do something for O'Reilly, it's significant.
Really, good.
Yeah. So it's well worth your time if they ask you to do a class, or if you go submit one or whatever. I would highly recommend you do it, because they normally, or at least for me, they book 2 classes. Now mine were very lightly attended. The first one was 46 people. The second one, I don't even think we hit 20 people and stuff. And then the prep, because they pay you for the prep work, and then they pay you for each class you do. So
Yeah. It all depends on who's doing it, what the expected workload is. And with books, you make nothing.
Yeah.
With videos for A-Press, you make a bit more.
Yeah.
But I get my royalty checks, which are $0.
Right.
Because
I do too.
I'm never gonna hit that royalty credit.
yeah. So, but again, if anybody does a lab, I would highly recommend to you, if you're going to do a hands-on lab. And Kevin, we've talked about this before. I used it twice and it was golden, and that is Azure Labs.
Yeah.
I think the second time it cost me like less than $10, for the lab for the day and stuff. So, you don't spend a lot of money. It's like, I think the box I was spun up was 55 cents an hour per person, and a 3-hour lab cost me $1.50 per person.
Not bad.
Yeah. So
Anders points out a really important truth. If we just switched to writing romance novels, we would make bank. This is accurate. That is where a lot of the money is in writing. Yes.
Maybe you could write some queries in such a way that the different queries would go in a romance novel format, but you got to run the queries to be able to pull the data out.
So Kendra has a namesake who does exactly that. There's a Kendra Little, who's a woman who writes steamy novels.
But it's not the Kendra Little.
No.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
That's rough.
Yeah, we've digressed greatly here.
Oh, all right, chat. We're gonna go to our next topic instead of Harlequin. We're gonna do the opposite of Harlequins, which is TriPass survey results. So, switch over here to development, which is a totally different screen, as you'll see. And I think I figured out all those problems from last time around where, hey, I'm gonna try to move stuff on the screen and it won't work. So I got stuff on the screen and it actually worked. All right, DBA who solves crimes.
I don't see your screen.
Crimes.
I still see you, but not your screen.
Yeah. Tom and Mala won't be able to see the screen, but everybody on the internet can see
I'm
screen.
I'm watching on Twitch. I can see it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay.
Yeah, it's all right. I'll talk through it as well, Tom.
Okay.
So you can be my my guide for how well I'm explaining things, because you won't be able to see it.
That's right.
So, chat, you're able to see the screen. This is the opposite of what we had last time, where Tracy and Mala could see the screen, but nobody else could, because I was sharing in Whereby. Whole long story short, we've got a screen here. So there were a few questions on the TriPass survey. Question 1 was, in lieu of a SQL Saturday pre-con, because again, we're not doing a SQL Saturday in 2021, would you be interested in paid training offerings made available by TriPass? And if so, what price level, what kind of training? We did actually get a reasonably positive small majority saying yes. Now, here is the problem. Of all of the things that were mentioned, there were 12 separate things mentioned. 2 of those things had 2 people pick them. And also the price point, roughly $100, which that's not unreasonable. But basically, it's something we'll take back and think about. It was interesting to see a good number of people say, yeah, we're interested. It was also interesting to see that of all the stuff that people threw out, yeah, they were all different things. So we have a lot of people who could have training for one person. We got that going for us. It's sort of like a choose your own training.
So not a lot of consistency, you're saying then?
Yeah, it was a pretty big variety in terms of who was going to, like, who was interested in what. Now, part of this was also that was free-form text, which means that you could put in whatever you wanted. And if we said, hey, here are 3 ideas, then we'd probably get different results. 1, 2, 3, or none of the above. We'd probably get different results, but this was mostly just to broach the idea that, is there a market for this at all? The answer is maybe. We got that going for us. Question 2. What topics would you be interested in seeing at a TriPass meeting in 2021? So we had a lot of different answers. Everything from like data analytics, SQL data development, cloud BI, Airtable or low code, no code options for machine learning for data movement, internals, unit testing, comparisons of cloud platforms. I'm actually going to try zooming in a little bit here. There we go. Power BI. So the good news is I counted out all the different topics here, and looking at our schedule for 2021, the majority are included in here. Not everything. We do still have a couple of openings, so we might be able to sneak in something else from the list. But we will have a pretty good representation of what people were interested in for the upcoming year. We have our TriPass schedule almost completely filled out. I'm not going to show it on screen for obvious reasons, but we will have enough of that information available, and we'll have plenty of these options like high availability, modern data lake design processing. I'm pretty sure we'll have topics on both of those this upcoming year. Now, if you do have additional ideas of what you'd like to see from the group, let me know. Send me an email, hit me up on Meetup, do whatever it takes to get the message to me, because we can always look at it for 2022, or if something comes up where a speaker can't speak for whatever reason, then maybe we're able to slot in a topic. But if there are hot button issues that you're interested in hearing about, let us know. Now, this one, I was actually quite pleased with this. Third question was that we were looking at potentially changing a TriPass special interest group setup in 2021. So for the past couple of years, we've had a cadence of 3 meetings per month. Advanced DBA on the 2nd Tuesday, main meeting on the 3rd Tuesday, data science on the 4th Tuesday. And I wanted to see if that was still viable for the audience. And I let people choose up to 2 options here. What was most pleasant to see is that nobody picked the option for none. I just want to have the main meeting and I don't want another meeting in the month. So I expected there'd be at least one person to say, you know what, I'm just not interested in any of these other meetings. But we got none of those, so that was good. For a while, this was almost like a 5-way race where everybody was neck and neck. But what we have coming out of this is we're going to continue the advanced DBA group, and data science and business intelligence will merge together. So what we'll do with this is some of the months will be more data science oriented topics. We'll focus on machine learning. We'll focus on that side of the world. And the other months will be focused more on business intelligence, more of the classical BI topics. Probably spend a fair amount this year talking about Power BI and the like. And just trying to figure out what that right mix is of those topics. Database development had half the people who answered said, yes, I want database development. Beginning DBA didn't get quite as many as I thought there would be, but our thought is that, yeah, neither of those is going to be its own special group, but we did take that in mind when getting some of the sessions for 2021's main meeting. So the main meeting will have a fairly broad mix of topics, including some beginner stuff and some database development work. And then we'll keep advanced DBA. We'll have data science and BI as a third group. Our fourth question, preferred cadence for shop talk. So you can see there was a wide mix, everything from once a month to once a week. And a few people said, nah, I don't like shop talk. That's okay. We are going to switch to once every 2 weeks. So starting with this episode, we're going to go to once every 2 weeks. We'll have an episode of Shop Talk. For now, it'll still be Mondays at 7 p.m. As people start going back into the office, as things start getting back closer to normal, we're going to reevaluate Shop Talk. The whole idea of it was essentially to have something that was a little bit less formal than a meeting, where we could just chat about stuff. Sort of the type of conversation you get before a user group meeting. And we'll see. Office hours, yeah, a little bit of office hours. Actually, I expected more of that. I expected it to be a lot of, hey, got this question in from somebody and let's talk about it for a bit. It kind of went to water cooler, which is also fine. But we're going to go to once every 2 weeks. We'll evaluate that. We're going to see how that shakes out. And as we start heading back into offices, then we'll see what the future looks like for Shop Talk. As of right now, there are no plans for having in-person meetings for TriPass at anytime soon. Anders says no office ever again, and I am 100% with Anders. I would much rather stay at home.
Well, it's very likely that they'll let us stay at home, in my opinion, and maybe occasionally drop in. It's seriously likely.
I think a lot of companies have realized. So I remember going back to the late 90s, early 2000, 2001. They were talking about, the future is telecommuting. It's all working from home. And at that point, you just started to get cable modems, and ISDN had been around for just a few years. So bandwidth wasn't quite there yet. But, we talked 20 years later, and what this did was it forced all of the people who are historically, I only think you're working if I can see you in your seat, and forced all of those people to reevaluate, forced them all to realize that, I guess for the majority of back office employees, you don't actually need to be there in person to still get your job done. And I can see a lot of companies saying, well, shoot, if I can move to a smaller office, or if I can give back a floor on a lease, that's a pretty good savings. My employees don't have to come into the office. They're still basically just as productive as they were before. And that seems like a net savings of money. So I can see a lot of companies doing that. Mike has it right. Just watch TriPass videos all day. We do have quite a few videos up on the TriPass YouTube channel. And at Duke, they said no for sure for most of them. Yeah, like most of the staff members, you know, if you can access, you can get onto the VPN, you're basically in the office.
Even in the country where I'm moving to, I'm getting, like, I can get 100 gigabit down and 50 gigs up. So, and it's unlimited. So there's no data cap or anything like that. So
Probably 100
that's
megabit down.
huh?
100
That's
megabit?
that's all I can get is 100 megabits down.
Okay. Yeah, 100 megabit, not 100 gigabit. That was...
No, 100 megabits. Sorry. 100 megabits
S-
per second.
Starlink,
What is Starlink?
satellite internet.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, but
I think it
that's
was...
not very, is it better than HughesNet?
Well, you go far enough out and you start talking the SpaceX version. Okay, so I thought you were talking about the older satellite version of Internet Anders, the stuff that people who are pretty far out.
Like HughesNet. Like
Yeah,
HughesNet.
so in beta, it's already 10 times faster than Hughes. It's it's Elon Musk's satellite ring. Neil says have 1 gigabit per second, but it is costly. Right. Once you start talking about gigabit, it seems like the price goes up a lot at that point. 100 megabit, generally not too bad. But again, depends on your area.
Well, it depends upon how much you're pulling too and stuff like that. Is like, now that I don't have to download databases and stuff like that to my local machine and stuff, because we're doing some container work and stuff, and it's all being hosted at the office, I don't need all that bandwidth anymore.
Yeah. Over the course of the day, your remote desktop isn't incredibly bandwidth intensive.
Right.
It's just that if you don't have much bandwidth available, the latency between actions is awful. Mike has AT&T 1 gigabit and loves it. Yeah, so Google Fiber was supposed to run through my neighborhood.
I actually have that right now. I have AT&T Google Fiber, and I've had it ever since I moved here 6 years ago, and I love it. I'll miss that.
Yeah. Well, one day we might get fiber in my neighborhood.
They said to get my 100 gigabits or 100 megabits per second, they did say that that they have fiber to the house. So, but I'm like, and all you're gonna give me is 100 megabits if you got fiber to the house? Come on.
They're gonna slowly increase it over time.
Well, see, they just passed that law, the new one, the new COVID Act. So, they're supposed to be in there some rural broadband improvements. I'm like, well, okay, bring them on.
You can start with my house.
You can start my house. I'll take it. So, sorry, I got you off on another tangent.
No, that's what we do here. But yeah, basically, people realized, well, shoot, I don't need these engineers in the office. I don't need IT people in the office. Yeah, moving to the country, Mike, not to a different country. There is a joke about Texas being a different country, but it's just a joke.
I heard they're seceding from the union, so we'll see.
So next topic, Melissa Coates.
Kevin
Let's talk about
doesn't
Melissa.
even go there. Okay.
Melissa has a new document that I believe just came out. It might have been today,
Came
as of
today.
January 4th.
Yes.
Like that. So, let me give you chat. Let me give you a link. So Melissa has a Power BI end-to-end diagram, and showing that on screen. There's a lot. We're not going to cover all of this. Just pointing out, she has a really good diagram here. There's a huge amount of information available. It gives you an idea of what this world looks like. So these are the main features in Power BI, how you integrate in with, say, Azure Synapse Analytics via Azure Synapse Studio, how you integrate in with different services, the types of data sets that you can bring in, how you can, say, integrate with Teams. Outdated by tomorrow night? Give it at least a week. There's usually about a week before a new release of Power BI.
I thought it was already outdated. Once you release it, it's already outdated.
No, I
That
think
is it.
what it has here is the more of the architecture that's not going to go outdated really quickly. It's going to be around for.
Yeah. So she's got this available. She does actually keep it up to date pretty well, and you can see it last updated. I've seen a couple iterations of this. I think, yeah, here's how it started. So she's had it going since 2015, and you can see just how much has grown over the past several years. So if you're interested in Power BI and how that bit works, check that out. Neil mentions there's going to be no Power BI desktop release for January, so it will be a few weeks before this becomes outdated. So if you were waiting for the next Power BI release, you got a month. Though the December release was a big one. There were some really interesting additions. The Duke says, been using Power BI since it was in beta. Yep. There's going to be someone who'll be like, I've been using Power BI since it was the last Power BI. Because, well, this is the second Power BI. There was another product called Power BI, if I remember right, which was not good. This is second Power BI. Streaming data like Kafka streams. Streaming data from event hubs mostly. But you can pull in data. If I remember right, you can definitely pull in data from Kafka. You can pull it in from Spark. The streaming portion is mostly pulling from event hubs to get real-time updates. Power BI Desktop was Power BI Designer. That's going back a ways. That is going back a ways. Azure Event Hubs? Yes, Azure Event Hubs. That's what, by the way, that's what this little logo right here is. It looks suspiciously like the Kafka logo, but it's not. And it even includes Azure Purview, which is just recently out. So Melissa's got this thing up to date. Check it out. Give you a feeling for just how big this Power BI universe is. It's crazy. He's been keeping it up to date for a while. 2021 Azure Cert on my plan. I was hoping somebody else would say something because I was just gonna say okay.
On Power BI, Kevin?
Mike says 2021 Azure certification.
Oh,
That's.
I don't know what to say. I don't believe in their certs anymore. I think they change too fast and they're too expensive for me.
Yeah, although they did change the policy where if you get a certification in something, you can. So there's a time limit on how long you can have, on how long it's valid, but then you can re-up it I believe for free.
For free?
I think it's for free.
Wow. Well,
The
that's
same
not bad.
cert.
That's not bad. Yeah.
But that said, I'm not your real dad, Mike. You want to do a certification, do a certification. They do have 50% off on book sales all the time. Yeah, some of the books are good. Some of the books are not good at all. But for example, the book for the 2012 certification, 461, Itzhak Ben-Gan wrote that book. And even though he had to write a book hewing to the certification exam rules, it was a really good book. It was definitely worth having on its own, just because it was a book Itzhak wrote about SQL Server.
No, the book that Stacia Meissner author about the BI parts of SQL Server is worth having too. Even if you have no plans of taking any cert, she does a wonderful job with explaining everything behind it.
Yeah. I'm gonna try to find the link to that book because Raymond was asking 7461. Yep, here it is. So this is the book, Raymond, that we're talking about. This is the 2012 certification guide, 7461. And there was another one. I forget exactly which one it was. It wasn't Stacia's book, but I remember getting another one where as I went through the training kit, I'm like, boy, this is just not helpful at all. Sometimes they're just really bad books, really dry, feel like a lot of copy paste of material.
Correct.
And it's just, we need to get out a certification book real fast.
Uh-huh.
As far as certs go with Azure, the XML almost killed me. That 2012 exam, I swear it was 50% XML. Where it was 50% XML. It was bad.
It was
recommended
bad.
certs for Databricks and Azure Synapse. So for Azure Synapse Analytics, there are no certifications yet. I'm sure that there will be one at some point. For Databricks, the Databricks company has their own certification path if you're interested in going down that route. You know, I'm generally anti-cert in terms of piece of paper. I'm generally in favor of the certification process.
Right. That's ditto me too, Kevin. I like the structure it gives me around learning things.
Yep.
Yep.
Even the exams, I'm like, okay, I'm okay with exams. It's just once I have the certification, doesn't do too much.
No, it doesn't.
Andrew says you guys must have answered poorly on the first few questions. I only had 2 XML questions. 461. I remember doing really well on that exam. But I believe it was that they just kept hammering you, like as you got things right, they just kept hammering you with more and more and more XML. You may have just gotten the lucky seed where they gave you very little XML. So the Duke, no certs for Azure Synapse Analytics at this point in time. And as far as Databricks certifications go, I know that they have a path for certification, but I've not gone through it. Yeah, they've got their certified professional data scientist and a bunch of other certs over here. And you know, if you're interested in getting into the field, the certification, like Mala said, that track, that guidance can help you get a feeling for the norm. Can help you get a feeling for what this should be like. Even if I think the piece of paper that it's written on, that the certification is on, isn't really worth much when you're done. There are companies, there are hiring managers who do like certs. I'm just not one of them.
There's a lot of companies though that really a cert is neither here nor there. So
Yeah.
I know that, you know, my thing is when I've hired people, I've tried to actually give them like test and what we do, you know, and kind of try to get their skill level set in that area. Because a lot of times people, you know, there are people that can pass test, but then they can't apply it. They can't do anything with it. You know, if you you know, tried to use it and stuff. So
So the one thing I'm hearing, this is only from this is not my personal experience. This is from people in the community, is that the cloud architect certifications, and not just Microsoft, it's both Azure and the AWS certifications. They have some serious value right now. They're not easy to get, but if you manage to get them, they're worth a lot, because in 9 out of 10 companies you go, the interviewer does not know what to ask you on cloud architecture.
Right.
that would be
So
true.
if you produce a certification and if you say, you know, I know what I'm doing, that's worth a lot now. And from what I know, neither Azure nor AWS cloud architect certs are easy to get. So it's a serious investment of anybody's time and money too.
Yeah, could be. And also, of course, we have our natural exception that the MCM was a certification that was absolutely worth getting because
Yes,
thing.
yes.
So here's the difference. Most of these other certifications, you can basically pass with brain dumps. You can memorize a bunch of questions, memorize a bunch of stuff right before the exam, and slide by with just enough material knowledge that you can get by. For something where you have a much more challenging exam, especially where you have process, you have to solve these problems. And the MCM is not the only exam that does this. There have been other ones. I know that Cisco's got exams along these lines as well. Here's routers that need configured. Here's how it needs to be configured. You can get to your documentation. You can look at all the documentation you want. Configure all this. And you have 3 hours to do it. If you have an exam, open up all the ports. Yep, Mike's got it right. Mike passed. If you have something where you have shown a level of skill mastery, you know, that's a different story than passing a regular certification exam. Anders says the MCM wasn't real. So I was livid when they canceled it.
I passed the preliminary exams too, and I couldn't believe it the morning. But I always thought it was ridiculously expensive. And 2 employers, I think I was with 2 employers at that time. I think the lab was like $2,000, something like that. So neither of them wanted to pay, and both of them wanted to ask, what are you going to do for us with this level of knowledge? I mean, you're going to go work for Microsoft. We're going to pay, and you're going to go take off like Brent did. And Brent kind of set a trend there. Everybody who wanted to pay for the exam thought, you know, we are going to do what he did, which is pass the exam and quit where you're working and go somewhere else. So anyway, I digress. Go on, Kevin.
Yeah, well, Andrew's response says leave and make real money. But that's essentially like, hey, if your employer has that attitude, yeah, you probably are going to leave.
No, it was because it cost a serious amount of money, Kevin. That's why.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah.
But even going to the past summit every year, if your company paid for it outright, that was you're laying out at least $5,000.
Mm-hmm.
You know, for T&E and the conference, and you know, and if you added in the pre-cons, you're talking probably at least another 1,000.
Yep.
So
no,
there was
the thing is that the summit is just 1 week of training. For the MCM, you need serious prepping for at least 2 weeks before you take the exam.
Yeah, I know. I realize that, but I'm just basically saying that, you know, if you got a company like Kevin was going down the line and they're complaining about spending $2,000 on you,
Mhm.
then you've got a serious problem anyway. And I would tell you toward the end of my career, my working career, if you've got companies that are not willing to invest in you, why are you going to invest in them, and stuff? Invest in you and help keep you basically on the forefront of your knowledge.
Yeah, I mean, it may not be a I'm gonna leave, I'm gonna quit today on principle type of thing, but it becomes,
No,
well, look, if like Tom said, if they're not gonna invest in me, then uh, I ultimately have to improve myself, and I'm not going to say consider myself loyal to the company.
well, I'll
So
give you a quick example on me. My previous company I worked for, I was with them 17 years. And, through that time, we'd gotten bought, acquired by some people and stuff. And, they were, before we got acquired, they were real good about keeping us up to date and stuff. But then the very last time I went to Summit, and this was before I was even volunteering, even getting any comp stuff or whatever, I actually paid for Summit myself because I saw the value in it and the knowledge
yeah,
in it. And when it come down to the week of going, they wouldn't even give me the time off. I had to take vacation to go. And
Mhm.
it's interesting that the week that I came back, actually the week before I went, I had a recruiter call me about my current job. I said, I'll go listen and stuff. And I ended up taking the job.
yeah,
So 17 years basically of saying, I'm yours, just help me keep abreast. And you will, if you don't keep abreast of your knowledge, you're basically going to fall out of, you're going to lose your, you know, deal. And,
Yeah,
and then
that's correct. That's
they
correct.
were like staying back on SQL Server 2008 because the licenses was changing. They don't want to pay the additional per CPU and, on and on and on. Just being cheap all the way around.
Mhm.
right.
Well,
And there are people who say, okay, I'm willing and able and interested in working in this, or can't get another job elsewhere. Different story. That's like if that's the only job in town, that's a
then you've
different
got to take
story.
it. Yeah, you've
Yeah,
got to take it. But
yeah,
if you've got options, if you're in a larger city and you've got options, then yeah, they're going to have a harder time finding good employees. They can find employees, but they're not going to find good and excellent employees that can kind of stay on the forefront of stuff.
yeah. Mike says it is a write-off, the examination. A small company, I can see doing that, but larger ones, maybe make a deal to do a cert after 2 years of work. They have some rules there. If you get a big cert or take classes at Duke, you pay back a portion in year 1, year 2, year 3, it's free. Yeah, I remember when I was working for the state of Ohio, you got like $3,000 in education credits per year. So that could be certification exams, it could be training courses. I took classes at university, and there's about $3,500 per year. Very few questions asked. As long as it was in their giant workbook of things that they would allow, uh, they just signed off on it. Now, I was making a lot less money than in private sector, but that training was pretty nice. Other positions I've been at, yeah, I've been able to work out arrangements to go to Pass Summit or to get trainings in places. And I think that for a lot of companies, especially if you have a lot of this comes down to how much your manager is interested in uh, doing well for employees. And if you have a manager who's interested in doing well, they'll typically find a way by hook or by crook. Um, they may not be able to do everything perfectly, may not be able to get everyone in and get you all of the training that you want every single time, but they'll find a way to squeeze something out. At the very least, to say, take these days off and do the training, or work something out. That's that's the type of thing where, you say, okay, if I'm a manager and I'm able to do that for somebody, I would hope that the person responds positively. And if they're out there and a recruiter hits them up, they're thinking, well, am I going to have a manager who will be willing to do this for me? And uh, probably be more likely to just say, nope, I'm happy with the manager I have.
Well, that's where that when I've gone out and interviewed, my interview questions to them basically is, okay, what's your training budget look like? How do you help the employees stay current in their knowledge and advancing in their knowledge and stuff like that. So yeah, definitely encourage you to interview the company you're going to, um, looking potentially at. So
Yeah, yeah. So Neil mentioned that he paid for the MCM out of pocket. Later started a consultancy, making a lot more money in the Microsoft roles. Yeah,
I'm sure.
um,
Yeah.
yeah. When it comes down to it, something that I stress is you are the only person who is going to guarantee to invest in you.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Uh,
correct.
there is a need to look out for number one in that regard, and you can hopefully have managers who will help you out. You can hopefully have technical communities who will help you out. But at the end of it, you could lead the horse to water, but you're going to have to be the one to drink.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes. Yes. And
and
the main thing that I could encourage you to do is do it. Get out there, spend some money, put a little money aside. Going to the SQL Saturdays, and stuff we went to. Kevin, you and I know that as speakers and stuff, we all paid for our own way and stuff. And
yeah,
and my wife did not complain about that coming out of our budget because she knew that it enhanced my career. It helped.
Mm-hmm.
You may not look at it initially like, oh, well, that's really helping me, but um, the main thing is not only when we talked about involvement a while ago of helping the local community like Kevin or whatever and taking over my position, but the other part is get involved in speaking even though you don't feel comfortable at it. I guarantee you there's always at least one person in the room that's going to know more than you do and probably a lot more than that,
Mm-hmm.
and they'll help you along. Nobody's going to bite your head off or whatever the case may be. Your career will go an extremely long way, and you'll get to know people like Kevin and Mala and Neil and other people and Anders that and then we kind of go, hey, I'm running into this problem. I've never dealt in this area. Um, can you help me with it? And we will. We will.
Mm-hmm.
yep, yep.
So that's
Completely
my
agree with all
parting
that.
note to people.
And
My
also,
parting encouragement.
nice job with the on the sly TriPass board membership push at the end there.
That's right. I'm going to push. I'll encourage anyone to do it. It's not going to take you a lot of time. You spend more time probably fiddling around with the TV or playing games or reading Facebook or whatever than you will volunteering for the board.
Yeah,
Now, writing a presentation, that's going to take you a little bit of time.
it
But
will.
if you're writing something you're familiar with that you're working with, it doesn't take near the time to do it. You can
Yep.
write them pretty fast.
Anders can't give up his farming simulator time. I mean, that's the beauty of farming simulator. If you've got one of the John Deere tractors with IoT devices that has automated track turning controls, you just set that thing up, and with GPS, it'll make those tight turns for the combine. And you just sit there, you sit on the thing, and let it do the work. You know how hard it is to run 6 combines at a time? No, I do not. I can tell you no. Um, so Mike says you have to invest in yourself. My wife didn't want to get an interview coach. We did, and she was amazing. Yeah, and as Anders says, interviewing is a hard skill set. Interviewing takes a lot of
Mm-hmm.
time and is not easy, especially if you're not a natural extrovert. but it is important because that, for obvious reason. I don't think I need to go to. The Duke says
Of
too
course,
busy reading the wheel of what's that?
you'd probably never think that I'm an introvert, but I am. I'm more of an introvert, but when I come to these things, I become an extrovert. So
Yeah. Yeah. The Duke is too busy reading the Wheel of Time series. So that is a series I have not dug into and probably
not saying
won't.
you have to do it all the time, but you need to do some.
So, Tom, Andy Warren calls what you said as a functional extrovert. He was the one who taught me that term. So,
Uh,
back in my early days of the summit, as soon as the classes were done in the evening, I would head to the Barnes and Noble behind the summit convention center. And I would literally be, the only person there who wasn't hanging out at any parties or gatherings. I wanted to just get away from it all. And that's where I met Andy once, and he asked me why. I said, I'm not into big crowds and people like that. I get, and it's not my thing. I'm an introvert and such. So Andy coined this term. He said functional extrovertness. And he said there's parts of you that you have to grow that are necessary in order for you to make progress in your career and also, make these relationships that you need as you go. And he was the one who taught me that there is such a thing. And it doesn't have to be totally natural to you, but you have to evolve it, more consciously for your own sake.
you just remember that people don't bite. Most people don't.
Yeah.
You just stay away from the topics that are hot potatoes. And most of us, that if we stay within our technical arena, none of us are really hot topics. Now, you might get us, talking about, I can't even think of, Kevin, come on, you can come up with one that, that's a hot topic between different people that DBAs will like go one way and other people go another way. Come on, someone's come up with a topic.
Tabs and
I'm going blank.
spaces, cursors, MongoDB,
Formatting is a good one.
formatting.
Yeah, you should format it this way versus that way, or that's ugly or whatever, So, but
All right. So with that, I'm gonna wrap up for tonight. Thank you, everybody. Documentation is stupid, says Anders. Mike says all uppercase. Solomon says triggers.
well, yeah, and
ORMs.
I would turn around and say, oh, that's a really bad word. I'd
Neil
turn
says
around and
camel
say,
case.
if you can't read the code, then you shouldn't be doing the work. That's my documentation.
Mike says that a case expression is not a statement.
There you go.
It
A lot
is.
of
It is. Yeah. If you think of it in functional programming terms, case is an expression in T-SQL. Because you can't have it. So it can't have side effects, and it returns a thing of a type. So yeah, Mike is right. It is an expression rather than a statement.
So I bid you guys an adieu. It's been great working with you over the last 6 years and stuff. It's been fun. So hopefully if we get back to some in-person stuff, I will see you around and maybe in some in-person stuff. Definitely, since SQL Dallas is only like 2.5 hours from me, so that'd be a quick SQL Saturday. That'd be like going to Charlotte.
Houston's even
Uh,
closer when they have one.
Yeah, yep,
Although it's
hour and a
south side
half.
of Houston, I think.
Yeah, it's always on the south, so that'd
Hope
take a
to
while.
see you around, Tom.
Yeah.
Yep.
By the way, one last thing I want to mention before Tom signs off. Tom is actually the reason that TriPass is a not for profit, because if it was just up for me, I would have just kept going doing whatever it was that I was doing. And Tom was the one who repeatedly brought up the point that as an organization, it should last longer than the leader, and what happens if something comes up. So I appreciate all the work that Tom has done in making TriPass a proper organization, in getting all of the corporate paperwork done. He's been the one who's really driven us in that regard. And so can't say thank you enough for that.
Well, you're welcome. You're welcome.
And with that, we're going to say goodbye, good night for all. Shop Talk again in 2 weeks. Mike is going to lift you up by the chair and toss you in the air, chanting your name, Tom. So you got that going for you.
Well, thank you.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night. Bye-bye.
Bye.